Hey everyone, it's me, Joe Saiyan. Today we're going to be doing a build video for Dragon Ball Gekishin Squadra, but before we begin I need to point out a couple things. So if you don't want to listen to this intro, please hit the timestamps in the description or comments below to skip ahead. Now, I currently, at the time of recording, am a part of the Squadra Creators Program, copyright of Bird Studio, SHUEISHA, TOEI, Animation, and Bandai Namco Entertainment Incorporated. Now, with that being said, Squadra is a free-to-play MOBA game designed to be played 4v4 competitively, and I am saying that I am by no means a pro. So, I'm not a pro, MOBAs are skill-based, future updates can invalidate the builds, and moving forward, build suggestions and card suggestions and skill suggestions are all only suggestions, and you should adjust as needed based on your skill level at playing this game. Thank you for watching, and let's just go ahead and get right into it. Alright everyone, it is Squadra time again, and today we're going to be going over the Super Saiyan 2/3 Goku. Or just Super Saiyan 3 Goku, as everyone's going to call him, because they hate how much this guy Kamehamehas you in the bloody face. So, we're going to go over his breakdown, go over his skills and card suggestions, and maybe give you a little bit of tips along the way to figure out how to best utilize him. Or, you know, you could just do what everyone else does and just spam the crap out of Kamehameha. So, let's just go ahead and get started. So we're going to go ahead and start off by going over his abilities real quick. So he does have a transformation at Super Saiyan 3. Once you transform at level 7, you will increase your HP and attack. Your damage will also go up for his passive specifically. The passive is an ability that grants buffs in adverse quote-unquote situations. Essentially what it does is you deal more damage to enemies the higher HP they have than your own. So if you're low on health but they have high health, you're going to do more damage. I'm not sure of the exact amount, but it is a decent chunk of extra damage at least. Now we also do have the rush attack right here. The rush attack is pretty much just a normal one, except you have a little tiny gauge below your health bar that slowly gains over time, and you just throw a powered up attack afterwards. It's essentially like a little 1k damage buff right at the get-go. The next one is going to be for skill 1 Super Kamehameha, you know, the exact and only move a majority of people actually end up seeing Goku do, because this is pretty much his entire kit. But essentially it's just a charged up Kamehameha with a huge range and duration for the attack. It does have the ability to move around and kind of adjust angle, but it doesn't last forever. And until you hit level 3 with it, it's pretty much going to be not as intimidating. But it's still, this is his primary damage. Now at skill 2, you have the Explosive Strike, where he just teleports up into the air and you can re-enter the command super quickly before hitting the ground, and you'll teleport back to the position where you initially used the skill. Next we have Instant Transmission, which I would argue to say is the whole entire purpose of using the unit, other than just wanting to have a strong Kamehameha hit. That was way too many Hames. Instant Transmission is pretty good, is you can instant transport to any of your allies or enemies on the map so long as they are viewable on the map. So as long as they are uncovered from the fog or they're interacting with one of your allies, the enemy can be targeted with it. If you do target an enemy with it, your cooldown will also be shorter than if you teleport to an ally. Also keep in mind, for when you do decide to hop into a fight with an ally that's fighting somebody else, if you wanted to, you can transport to an ally instead of the enemy, and you can still activate the Instant Transmission Kamehameha right away. It will still be a full power charged one, even though you targeted your ally. it's not going to increase your cooldown, but it is something to know that if you know that your ally is in trouble and they're running away and they're telling you, hey, I need you over here, you can technically just instant transmission to them and automatically use Kamehameha for a full charge blast and maybe help them out in that second. Afterwards, his super attack is Dragon Fist. I think this is one of the only supers in the game at the current time of recording where you are not able to obtain it until level 7. Every other super attack in the game is able to be obtained at level 5 and then leveled up at 8 and 11. But with Goku, he doesn't get his super attack, the Dragon Fist, until he transforms into Super Saiyan 3. And there's nothing special about the Dragon Fist. It's a giant key wave of dragon. Big range, big attack damage, and that's about it. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and go over his abilities at each level of the level up of each skill. I want to be able to show you guys just exactly how much difference there is between level 1, 2, and 3 of each ability. Mostly because a lot of the time when you're in these fights, you're not actually going to see a lot of skills at level 3. So you'll have to kind of pick and choose until you get to that point. Most games do not last until you hit level 13. You end up at level 11, maybe 12, but usually anywhere from 9 to level 11 is where you'll actually end up on games. We'll start off with the rush attack actually, because you'll see that there is that little bar right below your health bar. That's when you do your charged up hit. That does a nice little bit of extra damage in there. So just keep that in mind for when you're attacking. You go from 128 attack to a 1000 hit, just throwing that out there. Now for the move that everybody cares about is the Kamehameha. So pretty long range, pretty nice little beam, not too bad. Still does a good amount of damage even at level 1. Does have a bit of a cooldown though, I will say that. The cooldown is 10 seconds. I think it did used to be shorter, but they actually, I think they did go ahead and nerf it just a little bit. So, 9-second cooldown, so that is pretty rough. Or a 10-second cooldown is pretty rough. But, very short little range unless you're actually charging it up, and you can of course move it around. If you just throw it out, it doesn't go very far, and it lasts literally a fraction of the time. Level 2 looks a little bit better even if you just throw it out there. Looks about the size of the level 1, so that's interesting. You charge it up and you get a lot bigger, longer range and wider radius. Huge amount of damage, definitely more than the level 1. Same cooldown. Level 3 is when things get crazy, and this is what everybody has PTSD over since this unit has come out, and you just blast the enemy off the screen with it. Pretty good damage, almost took out half of his health bar, and this Super Saiyan Vegeta is 2 levels above Goku, so. Now we'll go ahead and go over skill 2. Let me just go back on there. Alright, so this is skill 2. Not very long range, at least not at level 1, but you still can hit the target from here. Does a little chunk of damage. Just remember that this skill will actually do more damage the less HP the enemy actually has. So if we actually did go ahead and knock down Vegeta's damage just a little bit here, go ahead and pop him right here. Did 1800. Let's get him down a little bit more. Pop it again, and we went up to 2100. So there is quite a difference in damage the more HP that he drops down to. Hold on, let me restart him because he only has less than half his HP right there. Nice little Dragon Fist finish. So if you normally would just do that attack just fresh, 1800. So once you get down to a certain specific amount, I think it's below 50% HP is when it actually procs that. Now at level 2, you do increase the range just a little bit, and the AoE circle of the attack is a little bit bigger. Cooldown being 6 seconds is probably his lowest cooldown attack. but it also feels like it's the most dangerous sometimes unless you actually re-enter the command to teleport back. You essentially are kind of throwing yourself into the midst there. But it is a nice little poke, actually. So I wouldn't be surprised if some people like to just poke with it randomly. I think at level 2, it's a substantially pretty good little poking tool to just kind of push and remove yourself. Maybe they'll start chasing you and you can just get right in their face with the Kamehameha. I think that would be pretty valid in all honesty. Now let's try it at level 3. Level 3 is going to have a much bigger AoE and a much, not much longer, but a pretty good amount of space extra for how far you can launch it. You can technically do it off screen, of course, and it does do a substantial amount of extra damage. Before you were only doing 1800, and I believe that one did about 21? 26. Mind you, we do have 2 attack cards on, so... Now, the instant transmission. The instant transmission is pretty crazy, I will say that. You do need to be aware of a couple things, though. So, the instant transmission only has the ability to go at a set length to an ally or enemy on the map. Essentially, at level 1, you don't have a huge amount of space. It essentially boils down to you could potentially transport from your tower to the bottom lane tower or top lane tower. Tower to tower, essentially. At level 2, you can cover half of the map unless you're in the middle of the map. If you're in the middle of the map, you can essentially teleport anywhere so long as, well, an enemy or ally is near there and you can see them. But as you can see, that red line right around Goku when I look at him, it's a very small circle technically. This training map mode is not very big. I will go into a normal Squadra map to actually show you the size of these in just a little bit, but we're going to go over the super attack first. And once again, you can do a full instant transmission Kamehameha even if you're transporting to an ally. So we're just going to go over the super attack, and then after that I'll show you the range of the instant transmission. So, Dragon Fist doesn't have a huge range at level 1, but it is 100% easily a very good damaging attack early on. At level 1, it's still not as crazy. You know, it's got a 70-second cooldown, so it is pretty... Actually, 70 seconds? There's no way it's only 70 seconds. Hold on a second here. There's no way that's only 70 seconds. That'd be crazy. Try that again. So this is level 2, much wider radius, much longer distance. Level 2 is probably the safest you can have your super attack at without going into a max range. The max is just crazy, but at level 2, this covers a tower. This covers the majority of probably a team fight. I think level 2, if you don't want to go max with it, level 2 is safe. 70-second cooldown on the Dragon Fist actually is pretty crazy. But let's go ahead and take a look at level 3. Woo, dang, yeah. So at level 3, you have this massive long radius of damage, essentially doing about almost half a health bar of damage. Pretty good damage, pretty good AoE. I'd say level 2 is probably fine to keep in all honesty, as long as you use it strategically. Or maybe even to chase an enemy, or specifically just use it for mini bosses. Majority of the time, you're still going to be using Kamehameha. So, alright, so we're on a normal map here. This is where I want to go ahead and show you the distance that you can actually view the instant transmission. So on my bottom right-hand screen, you can probably see it just kind of vaguely. Go ahead and just pay attention to that real quick. I'm going to go ahead and try and activate the instant transmission. You'll notice there's a nice big red circle right there. That red circle is not very big. So at level 1, the instant transmission is pretty short. If I go to the middle of in between the top and bottom lanes, towers of your side, of my side, I can only teleport to the main towers on essentially our side of the map. That is it. It is a very small area, and like I said, even if you're at, let's just say you're at your main tower, you're just defending it and attacking it. If the bottom enemy or an ally team is asking for help, you cannot just transport over there right away. You actually have to kind of hug the wall down here to where the mini boss might be, and then you can try to teleport to somebody over there, and you will have the space for it. So at level 1, you do need to position yourself for the instant transmission, but it is still a very good size, of course. Now, if you go to level 2 is a much bigger radius, to the point of where it's essentially almost the entire map. I'm at the very middle of top lane right now, and I can go anywhere I need to so long as they are visible on the map. So I'm just going to transport to my ally right now. So we went all the way from the top middle lane all to Goku up in spawn of our spawn, when we couldn't even go back there if we wanted to from where we were at level 1. So there is quite a bit of difference, and also there is a huge cooldown on the instant transmission. So I wouldn't say you should be really spamming instant transmission, but it is definitely a long cooldown, so be wary of it. Now, the instant transmission at level 2, like I said, so long as you actually are within a set position, you can go wherever you need to. If you're at least at your tower, you can teleport to any part of the map. But if you are KO'd and go back to your home base, and you try to reactivate instant transmission, you cannot get over to pretty much, you can't even make it to the enemy's first tower. It is a very big circle. If you press on past the dragon shell and go to your first tower, you can make it to the enemy's last tower. And of course, if you get to your last tower in order, anyways, the actual first tower for yours, you can make it to anywhere. So as long as you're not sitting back at base, essentially, you can go to just about anywhere you need to at level 2. I don't think there's any real reason to be utilizing level 3 of instant transmission, short of you just dying and going back to base and trying to get back to allies that are pressing on at the final push. And even then, you would only have to move a short distance to even get within range of that. So I don't think there's any real reason to be pushing level 3 of instant transmission. I don't see much of a purpose in it. It doesn't make much sense to bother with that. So I would just highly suggest that if you are deciding to run instant transmission, that you are wary of what you are doing with instant transmission and how you play. Now, if you put it to level 3, there is no longer an actual radius. You just can teleport anywhere on the map. That's the only thing. And remember, instant transmission doesn't change by it doesn't increase damage, it doesn't do anything else. It's literally just transporting to an enemy or an ally and having the ability to activate Super Kamehameha right away. It's supposed to be full charged and the damage is full charged, but the beam is not as long. So just keep that in mind when you do that. At least, no, we're at level 1. That's why that happened. Excuse me. Let me do that one more time. Yeah, full blast Super Kamehameha. So it is fully charged up radius and all. I take that back. Now, as far as helpers go with Goku, I would say it'd have to be, well, I think a majority of people are going to tell you probably World King. As of the time of recording, a big update happened and increased the damage increase from World King, so he is immensely more useful. In the future, if he does get a nerf again, there is no reason you couldn't just go to Nail. Nail was perfectly fine. Goku primarily is going to be using his rush attack quite a bit, so Nail will be in range. He's good early on, help too, early to mid game. After that, he's probably not doing much. And then Botamo is actually very good once again for defending your tower, especially when you're using instant transmission to leave your lane to help the other lane out. So I actually, in a lot of cases, will just end up bringing Botamo just to cover my bases when I'm using instant transmission, because there is a huge 30-second cooldown with that, so I can't just teleport back to my other ally, back to my primary lane. Alright, so with all that finally being done and over with as far as his abilities go, we're just going to go ahead and hop into the skill suggestions. Now, I do have a couple builds for you as far as Goku goes, mostly because it's kind of more of a preference. But I think there is going to be times where there's some players that are going to want to abuse the crap out of the max power of the instant transmission. I don't personally see a reason to care about the max power of instant transmission. I think at level 2, you should have sufficient usage of the entire map, and as long as you have map awareness and know where your allies are and you're on a team and you're communicating, then level 3 should not be necessary for this. But for those that do solo queue and you end up dying or you're on the other side of the map, you know, there is those instances where, you know, as potentially the primary damage of the team, you're going to want to be anywhere in a flash. And this is kind of where it is. Your instant transmission Kamehameha build, this is what you're focusing on. You're just instant transmissioning whenever possible, beaming the crap out of somebody and running away. In this case, we are actually really taking away from skill 2. I don't personally see much tax in skill 2. I think it doesn't do enough damage overall. I think in key instances where the enemy technically has more HP than you, but they're at low enough HP that this is going to do an absurd amount of damage so that you can abuse his passive skill mixed with the enemy having higher health, but you have low health. I think that in those rare instances, this could be a nice damaging move, but it's very high risk, high reward at that point. Regardless of the fact that you can teleport back out of it, if the enemies know where you essentially use the skill from, it's very easy to kind of punish you, because it actually does take a second for you to land, and you don't have invincibility frames when you're using this. So there is something to be able to keep in mind about that. So I do have it like level up last, because super is still going to take more priority for taking mini bosses, covering towers, team fights. It's just going to cover more than skill 2 will. Though I will say skill 2 is your lowest cooldown skill, so not pressing into this does hurt you a little bit in some regard. But with Goku, majority of people are just going to try to get to level 8 as soon as possible, max Kamehameha, and just AoE Kamehameha everything. Now, with the second build here, we're actually going to press on a little bit more into skill 2, kind of space it out, not press into instant transmission, and not press into the super attack. As I said during the abilities and breakdown of the character, both skill 3 and super do not need to be at max. I think both of these skills are perfectly usable at level 2, and they're perfectly fine sitting there like that. Otherwise, you can kind of build into skill 1 and skill 2 and just have those maxed out, and you'd honestly be perfectly fine. In this instance of that build, we actually go for, I put it skill 2 for 13, but I honestly feel like I should have fixed this and put instant transmission at level 13 and put skill 2 at level 11. I think this would have been a much better choice, personally. I'm just not going to edit this. So I think this is a good middle-ranged area grab anyways. Adjust to how the game is going. Maybe you need to go full-on into the super. Maybe you're dying too much and you do need the instant transmission to get back into the fight right away. It's hard to say. No matter what, though, super Kamehameha, the skill 1 is max first. Now, a final build choice for Goku would once again be more focusing up on everything else. It looks like I did kind of fix it. So put instant transmission last. Instant transmission level 3 would be last, but you would get this level 2 as soon as possible. You have skill 1 and skill 2 maxed at level 8 and 11, and you have your super attack up to level 2 by level 10. I think this is a good middle range build right here. I think a majority of the time you play as Goku, or just play in general, you're going to get anywhere from level 8 to 11, anywhere in there, and you'll probably be fine. it's very unlikely you'll max out all skills. Sometimes, a lot of the times players are playing, they get 3 out of 4 skills maxed out anyways, or only 2 out of 4. So now we'll go ahead and move on to the card suggestions, which I only have one suggestion for y'all. And the reason for this is because, well, I don't think Goku needs to be built any other way. He's primarily probably the most highly focused damage dealer in the game right now, actually. When I really have to think about it, every attacker has some kind of like crazy extra purpose. I think there's a couple differences, like maybe Oob, you probably have to go full damaging on. You have to go full damaging on Trunks potentially, but even with Trunks, you can still kind of vary off a little bit on the cards. Kale is another one of those, but as I'm saying this, each one of these is a more burst-centered style of damage, and that's exactly what Goku is as well. He's a burst-style damage character. He is still pretty dang squishy, and he is squishy because of his passive wanting his HP to be lower to do more damage. That's just the way he is designed, and that's the whole point and purpose of this video, is for you to utilize the unit for how he is designed, not necessarily how well he is doing at the current update of whenever you're watching this. So, the first level 1 would be Snowball, then Giant Slayer level 2, and Pursuer at level 3. I think this is 99.9% of players that are going to choose Goku. This is the build they're going to go with. A second build option would be Build Up with Giant Slayer and Wicked Warrior. Wicked Warrior is more for those that want to force into regular, just kind of pushing like battles. You're not focusing 100% on Kamehameha, you're focusing on skill 2, and you're just kind of doing an all-around kind of thing. Remember, Kamehameha does have a 10-second cooldown, so short of you leaving combat and coming back in, you will end up using a lot of your rush attack, and your rush attack does have a nice little extra part of it that does a good chunk of damage. Wicked Warrior will increase that damage significantly. You can still do an absurd amount of damage if you chose Pursuer over Wicked Warrior, and the extra speed boost from Pursuer might still even be better. But the point is, these are just kind of varying damage-focused builds for you to kind of press on with. Alright, and I think that's going to go ahead and be it for the Super Saiyan 3 Goku build suggestions. I think he's a pretty straightforward character. There's not much reason to really look at any other way to utilize him, other than just kind of being a quote-unquote jungler, even though this game doesn't really have a jungler, even though it's a MOBA. I think that's what Goku would end up being, is that he's instant transporting all over the map to support allies, press towers, 3v2 lanes, and then popping back to his own tower. I think it's a very sound way to be utilizing him as a burst style damage type of character that he is. So let me know how you build Goku's skills and what cards do you utilize. Do you go for a full damage focus, or do you actually give him some defensive skills, or maybe even some blue card skills? Maybe you try to do Gekishin High or something. Let me know down in the comments so others can learn from you, and you know, post updates when updates happen in the game, because just because he plays this way and has these cooldowns doesn't mean he's going to have them in 2 or 3 or 4 or even 6 months. Anyways, guys, thank you for watching. I hope you have a good day and a good night.